This webinar is being recorded. The people participating in the webinar have been notified that this is a recorded webinar and have been invited to stop the webinar if they wish to do so. Thank you very much for everyone attending. I now would like to introduce Kendra Harrington.
Thank you, Rob. As Rob mentioned, my name is Kendra Harrington. I am the American Physical Therapy Association's manager of the Residency Fellowship Education and Credentialing Department. We invited you today to launch the new RF-PTCAS, the Centralized Application Service for Residency and Fellowship Programs through the American Physical Therapy Association, which will be coming out next month. The first part of the presentation is going to go through the resources that APTA has developed for you on its new website, as well as to give you a little bit of information regarding RF-PTCAS and its differences, similarities yet differences from PTCAS. And then Rob will take over to give you some demonstration with respect to RF-PTCAS and what it's starting to look like. Rob, next slide. APTA has launched a new website for residency and fellowship education and credentialing. It is named after the American Board of Physical Therapy Residency and Fellowship Education. That is the board that performs the credentialing of all residency and fellowship programs for physical therapy, as well as creates the evaluative criteria for which programs have to meet in order to be credentialed. So the new website is abptrfe.org. Rob, next slide. Now, on that website, you're able to find a lot of information with respect to residency and fellowship education. The first is we have our program directories, and that hopefully will help you to determine which program that you would like to choose, because deciding which program is definitely the first, but yet can be a very difficult decision, as we have many different specialties and subspecialties within physical therapy and many programs to choose from. Next slide. As of August 5th, there were 143 credentialed residency programs and 30 credentialed fellowship programs, and that number is constantly changing. We currently have 24 residency programs that are seeking initial credentialing through ABPTRFE, as well as another 7 fellowship programs also seeking credentialing. APTA staff receives new applications on a weekly basis, and we do have those programs identified on our new website under the directory of developing programs. Next slide. So when considering which program you would like to choose, the very first decision that you would want to make is what specialty or subspecialty do you want to go into? For example, if you're looking to specialize, do you want to do this in orthopedics, or would you like to do this in neurology or women's health or geriatrics? ABPTRFE currently has every specialty that's represented through board certification as a residency program, plus one additional area of practice, which is wound care management, which is not yet a specialty through the APTA. As far as subspecialties, we do have many different subspecialties, and new areas of practice are being petitioned to ABPTRFE annually, with many of those being successful and establishing themselves as a new subspecialty area. So again, I defer you to the abptrfe.org website to research the various specialties and subspecialties that we offer for physical therapists. The next decision, once you've decided what type of specialist or subspecialist you want to be, is to determine, do you want to relocate in order to attend a residency or fellowship program? If you don't wish to relocate from where you're living, your search of programs becomes a little bit easier, because you will just want to look at those programs that are in close proximity to you. Now, when reviewing programs, please keep in mind that some programs do operate as a multi-site. So it means that the umbrella organization, which is listed on the directory, may be in a different state from where some of their clinical locations are located for you to actually do the clinical aspect of your residency or fellowship program. The next question you would want to ask yourself is, what do you perceive your career goals, or where do you perceive yourself to be in 5 or 10 years with that specialty or subspecialty? For example, are you interested in research or teaching? Are you interested in just being a clinical expert and presenting at every APTA annual conference in CSM. When you're looking at programs, you do want to investigate that program's mission, goals, and objectives, because the mission and goals and objectives do give a clear indication of the structure of that program and what their focus is on. When APTA credentials a residency and fellowship program, the program has to meet a minimum basic level of didactic and clinical evaluative criteria. However, programs can establish themselves with various uniquenesses. So if you're reading the program's mission, goals, and objectives, and you notice that they're very heavy in research, and that is not something that you're very interested in, that program probably would not be a good fit for you to attend. Rob, next slide. Additional considerations that you would want to think about for residency and fellowship education is, what is the program faculty? So you should review the websites of the programs. The programs' websites are all hyperlinked off of the abptrfe.org's directory of programs. And take a look at what faculty that they have at those programs to see if there are certain names or individuals that you know of that you would love to work with during your residency or fellowship program. As I mentioned earlier, programs do all have some uniqueness or additional resources that are different from maybe the other program. As long as they're meeting the minimum criteria for the curriculum, they're able to add these opportunities in. So if a certain learning opportunity is available through a program that seems quite interesting, that is definitely then a program you would want to apply to. The other thing you should keep in mind is that some programs, or I should say many programs, come with a salary. However, there are other programs that are tuition-based, with then a few programs that have a combination of a salary and a tuition. We do have basic information regarding programs that are participating in RF-PTCAS and whether they offer a salary or tuition. We'll talk about that in a couple of slides. But again, when you're looking at your programs, you want to be able to capture all of that information so you can cross-analyze and determine what is going to suit your needs during that residency or fellowship year. The last consideration is that there are some programs that do offer a higher degree. For example, they may offer a PhD or a doctorate of education or a transitional DPT or some other degree that you can utilize credits that you earned from the residency or fellowship program in obtaining that higher degree. So those are other things you should consider when you're exploring the different programs and the options available to you. Next slide. On the APTA website, we do have a listing of all residency and fellowship programs that are either credentialed or those that are actively seeking credentialing. And they're located on the respective directory of programs. So if you're looking for a residency program, you would go to the Residency Program tab and then go to the Directory of Residency Programs. The same for fellowship. If you were looking for a fellowship program, you would go first to the Fellowship Program tab on the main landing page and then go to the Directory of Fellowship Programs. Now, the directory, as I mentioned earlier, is broken down into two subsets. The first is the credentialed programs, so those that have already obtained their credentials. And then the other tab is called Developing. And at the moment, those are programs that already have residents or fellows in place, and they have actually applied for credentialing, and they're working through the process of their application review and their site visit. Next slide. In addition to the directory, for those programs that are participating in RF-PTCAS, you will see that RF-PTCAS participant indicated in bold at the bottom of the program's online directory. Next slide. Now, APTA is also developing a new web page specifically for RF-PTCAS. So when you're looking at the main APTA website, all the way on the right, you'll see the tab for RF-PTCAS. And the area that you would want to go to is at the top, and it's the RF-PTCAS applicant website. Now, on this page, as I mentioned, APTA is developing a program directory with the anticipation of it looking very similar to PTCAS and being quite user-friendly, so you can obtain a lot more information than what the current program directory entails. Other items that will be coming onto this web page will be the application process, so it'll be the instructions manual for completing your application through RF-PTCAS. There will also be the link for you to get 2 liaisons site to log into RF-PTCAS and complete your application, as well as this webinar will be located on that page once complete. Next page. So as I mentioned before, the RF-PTCAS program directory is under development. We do have resources currently on the web page. So every program that is participating, we have created a PDF file for them that will contain all of the information in the expanded directory that the upcoming directory will once the IT department in a few weeks has completed it. So please bear in mind that the current program directory is temporary, just to provide applicants with the information that they need while we develop the more firm website over the next few weeks. Rob, if you go to the next slide. So this is a screenshot of one of our residency programs and that PDF file. When you click their name, if you were interested in this particular program, this is the information that you would be able to obtain. And so now I'm just going to go through to give you a little bit of knowledge as far as what information is detailed in this directory, again, in its temporary version, and will be also provided in its final version in a few weeks. Next slide. So the first thing that you'll notice with the expanded program directory through RF-PTCAS is that for those programs participating in RF-PTCAS, they are going to be able to provide a brief overview of the program. So the program may choose to highlight some unique aspects of themselves, or they might want to highlight their mission goals and objectives. A nice area here is that it saves you the extra step of having to go to the program's website specifically to obtain that information. You're able to have it all condensed on one sheet of paper as you're cross-comparing several programs and choosing which one or several of them that you want to apply to. In addition to the overview, what you'll also find is the program's application details. So that includes the application deadline or deadlines if they have more than one each cycle. You'll also be able to know what the admission decision date is that you will be notified of either acceptance or denial into the program, as well as the program start date, because we do have programs that start throughout the year. And so if you're still needing to sit for the licensure exam, you're able to determine maybe which programs will work or not work for you during this application cycle. Next slide. Additional information that's located on the RF-PTCAS directory will include program details. So as I mentioned earlier, there are some programs that are considered multi-site programs in which the main organization has their address through us. However, they do offer clinical sites at various locations throughout the country. So if this program that you're looking at is a multi-site, it will just indicate yes on the directory and direct you to the program's website to be able to investigate other sites that it's offered to see if there is one closer to your home if you wish not to relocate for the program. In addition, you'll be able to obtain information with how long the program is. Most programs are about 12 months in duration, but we do have some that function at 15 or 18 months in duration. And then there are others that are part-time programs, so they may go longer and be 24 or upwards of 36 months. In addition, it provides you with the anticipated number of clinical hours per week. The reason we give you this figure is because most residency and fellowship programs that provide a salary, the salary could be reduced, and it's generally based on the number of clinical hours that you're expected to work over the course of the residency. So if you all notice that there's only 20 hours that you're in clinic, the salary could be only 50% of what a full-time therapist at that facility is earning. That is not always the case. There are some programs that have less clinical hours, and they are still paying you for those didactic training hours. But there are other programs that expect you to also carry a full caseload of 40 patients per week and receive your mentoring and your clinical education on top of then doing didactic work on top of that. So it does help to cross-compare to see what are the expectations of that program. In addition, we're giving you information with respect to what is the maximum number of residents or fellows the program will accept each application cycle. We also will give that indication if the program has any associated tuition or if it provides a salary and or benefits to the resident and fellow during the course of training, as well as if you're able to use credit from the program towards an advanced degree, and we provide what that advanced degree is that you're able to put credit towards. Next slide. The next section of the RF-PTCAS program directory reviews the supplemental items. So not every program requires any kind of supplemental application fee or a supplemental application materials, but there are a few programs that do. If a particular program does require these items, the amount of the supplemental application fee will be noted on their directory, as well as the specific items that are being required supplemental outside of RF-PTCAS. Now, there are a couple of items that programs do require, for example, transcripts, which we'll get into in a moment, where you don't have to send those items to the program separately. You can upload those into RF-PTCAS, but for the most part, when you're looking at the directory, it will indicate with supplemental materials that that information, unless otherwise directed, should be sent directly to the program and not to RF-PTCAS. Next slide. As far as transcripts are concerned, RF-PTCAS only requires that the applicant submit an official copy of their PT degree transcript or transcripts if you've gone to several schools to obtain your physical therapy degree. Again, there are a few programs that do require transcripts from all professional degrees. If that is required, it will be indicated on that program's directory under the RF-PTCAS directory. And if that's the case, those items can be submitted to RF-PTCAS, but that is the only additional information that generally should be sent to RF-PTCAS. Next slide. For this year's application cycle, RF-PTCAS has been designed to contain 3 standard essay questions. So in order to complete your RF-PTCAS application and submit it to any program, you will be required to answer the 3 questions that you see here on this slide. There are some programs that require additional essays or a letter of intent, which is above and beyond the 3 required essays of RF-PTCAS. If a program does require additional essays or a letter of intent, you should submit those directly to the program and not into RF-PTCAS. Next slide. There are some programs that require prerequisites. Those prerequisites could be some continuing education courses or other coursework that they wish you to take prior to applying to the program. It could be certain certifications that are required by the program before you apply, or some experiences, like certain experiences that you've had on your clinical rotations during your entry-level PT degree. Now, if those are required, they're indicated on the program's RF-PTCAS directory, and those items can be inputted directly into RF-PTCAS in the appropriate areas of the application. So we do have an area regarding continuing education and the ability to upload PDF copies of your CEU certificates. We have an area with respect to certifications for you to input what certifications you have and the date that you've obtained them or the date that you recertified, as well as when it comes to the clinical rotations that you perform during your entry-level PT degree. We have areas within RF-PTCAS that can provide that information and detail and descriptions regarding those experiences. Next slide. I wanted to take a moment, though, to remind folks if you plan on applying to a sports residency program. For sports residency programs, an applicant must meet one of the 3 criteria before starting the program. So you don't have to have these before you apply to a program, but it is required that you have one of these 3 items before starting the program. So the first is you either have to be an certified athletic trainer, or you have to be an EMT. And if you don't have one of those 2, then it's required that you take an emergency medical response course. Again, you can apply to a sports residency program without having one of these 3 items, but it will be required that you obtain one of these before starting the program. So if you do need to take an EMR course, we recommend that you go to the APTA Sports Section's website. They have a listing of all approved EMR courses that are then eligible, because you'll also need to show proof of that when you go to sit for your board certification exam in sports to get your SCF. And that website has a list of all of those approved courses to meet the requirements of sitting for that exam throughout the entire country. Once you've taken the EMR course, or if you've already taken it, again, you would want to enter that information for the EMR course, or if you already are a certified athletic trainer or an EMT, directly into RF-PTCAS. The sports residency programs will be looking for one of those, or hopefully an anticipated date of when you'll be taking that while they're reviewing your application. Next slide. So as far as the RF-PTCAS application cycles, the cycle that will be opening on September 16th will go through August 29th of 2014. So any programs whose deadlines fall between those dates will be located within RF-PTCAS. Now that cycle will close on August 29th. The system, similar to PTCAS, will be closed for about 3 to 4 week period for system upgrades. And the next cycle for 2014 to 2015 will open on October 1st, 2014, and go through August 31st of 2015. So again, programs whose applications then fall within that cycle will be located during the next application cycle and not the one that's opening next month. Next slide. I wanted to take a moment to talk, though, about programs that do have multiple application deadlines. So programs will either have a single deadline, in which case you would just be applying to that particular program. They also may have a rolling deadline, which means they will continue to accept applications throughout the entire cycle all the way up until the close date of August 29th. And then there are other programs that have set application deadlines that could be 2 or 3 deadlines. You'll see on the screen here there are a couple of those programs that do have that. Now, when you're applying to the program, you can either choose to initially apply to all of the deadlines that the program has, or start off with maybe the first application deadline. Sorry, Rob, next slide. What APTA recommends, however, is that you only select the first application deadline and not select all of them at the first go-around. The reason for that is a program may not accept you for that particular application cycle. However, they may want to consider you for a later one, but in the meantime, you may have applied to a different program and have accepted admission to another program. The program with the multiple deadline may then end up reviewing your application and wasting their time because you've already accepted the other application. So it is better to wait to see if you're accepted during their first application cycle, and if for some reason that you're not, to go back into RF-PTCAS and select the next application deadline for that program. Now, in that case, you will not be charged an additional application fee if you're applying to the same program just at one of their later application deadlines. Next slide. Thank you, Rob. I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Great. Thank you very much. And there's a lot of great information, Kendra. I appreciate it. What I'm going to do now is show everybody how exactly the application works and it behaves. While I get this ready. This is the application as you would see it when you would log into your RF-PTCAS application. As a point of reference, on the left-hand side you would have your navigation tools to be able to understand where you are in the application if you needed to navigate, change your account information or password security information. Any messages communicated to you through the RF-PTCAS will be located here. Messages could be coming from RF-PTCAS staff. They could be coming from automated messages, transcripts have been received, things like that. Any messages that go to your RF-PTCAS message portal will also go to the email that you register your account with. FAQs, instructions, and additional links will be found under the Help section here. The center channel is the application itself, where you'll be able to navigate through and understand where you are in each of the additional sections of the application. On the right-hand side, you have your status section. You'll be able to click any of these links to better understand where you are, if you've collected any references, if you have any transcripts that have been received in process, and any program designations that have been submitted. When you first log in, all these boxes will white. As you go through and complete these sections, they will fill into the color that is appropriate to indicate that they are a complete section. You'll click on the section, provide the appropriate information. Red boxes are indicated as required information, and then click Save. You have the ability to print off these pages as well. To navigate back to the checklist, all you have to do is click My Application. You'll go through each of the sections indicating the appropriate information. The red box again are required. When you get down to the educational information, this is where you'll enter in your physical therapy colleges attended. These transcripts you enter here will be required. You'll enter in the new colleges here, enter in the appropriate information, click Save. That information will be saved into the application, and then you'll be able to print off a transcript request form to that indicating that that institution is your physical therapy colleges attended. You'll print off that form, submit that form to your registrar. That registrar will include that form with your transcripts, and we will scan that into your application. It is at that time that under the transcript section you will see that you have received your transcripts. As indicated earlier, if an institution is requiring additional transcripts from other colleges or institutions attended, you will enter those in here, and if those transcripts are required, you will follow the same procedures of printing off the barcode, the transcript request form, submitting that to the appropriate registrar. The registrar will then mail that to us. We'll scan that in, and you again will be able to see that under the transcripts received section. The additional information, all of these are optional, however strongly encouraged. You will need to enter in all this information if it is applicable, understanding that this is your application for residency and fellowship, and which will make you competitive to the applicable residences. Clicking on any of these sections, you'll be able to add the new entry, and you'll be able to understand the information that is required, and then completing that, and then saving and submitting that. There are various uploads that you will have to do. If your PT license is required, selecting that, and then having that information entered here. Other licenses, and then CEUs, entering that information here. As mentioned earlier, all that information will be allowed to be entered into these additional sections. If you have any general uploads that you are required to enter into the system, you're able to do that here. Simply adding a file, selecting that file, starting that upload, and then the status bar here will indicate whether that has been completed or incomplete. References behave if you use the entry system of PTCAS in a very similar manner. If you haven't used the entry-level system PTCAS, to request a reference, you simply click on Add New Entry, indicate the following information, enter in the information of the referee, and then click Save. One key thing to understand is that the email address will be required for this to be complete. That is because the process is required and dependent upon the email address. That referee will receive an email giving them credentials to a reference portal. That reference portal will have any request that has been submitted to that referee, whether it be 1, 2, 3, multiple applicants that have requested that individual. It will be indicated here in that reference portal. They'll be able to enter in the reference appropriate and then submit that to individual applications. At no point will an applicant be able to see the reference individually. You will be able to understand if your reference has been submitted or completed under the reference status section. You will be able to see if it's in progress or complete. Earlier we mentioned the individual essays. Those are located here. Entering in those, so these text boxes will provide you with the available space to have those submitted. certification and authorization statement merely indicates that you have filled out this truthfully and that you have not provided any false information, and then you agree to abide by all the RF-PTCAS policies. Once all this information is filled out and you are satisfied with your application, you're then ready to submit your application. Designating the program is the next step. Update the designations will open up a screen that looks a lot like this. You're going to indicate whether or not it's a residency or a fellowship. By selecting that, you'll be able to then specify the speciality that you're looking to apply to. You're then able to generate a list of applicable, in this case, residencies that are appropriate for your selections. By applying to them, you're able to then indicate who you'd like to apply to. The final step in the process is clicking on the eSubmit button. Once you click on the eSubmit button, you will be validated. Your application needs to pass all the appropriate information, meaning that all the required fields are complete. If those fields are not required, or if those required fields are not complete, your application will get kicked back, and you will see an error message much like that. There are multiple ways for you to ask questions as you don't understand the technical requirements of the application. Going to the Contact Us section will give you the email address and the phone number to be able to contact RF-PTCAS customer support. Their hours are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we are more than happy to answer any of the emails that you submit to us. Off hours, we will respond within 24 hours to any off hours email, and the emails that we received during hours and the phone calls obviously will be answered as they come in. What I'd like to do now is answer any questions or address any additional issues by the questions bar on the Go to Webinar navigation panel. You see a bar that says questions. In there you are able to enter in any of the questions that you have regarding the PTCAS, RF-PTCAS, and the supporting websites that have been outlined by Kendra. Enter those questions in, we'll be able to see those, and then we will be able to address them as appropriately. Starting to get a couple questions in. The first question.
Okay, so we're getting a couple of questions coming in. The first one states, if we have not graduated at the time of application, should we submit the transcript by the time of the deadline or send that one and send another when we graduate? What you will want to do is send a transcript up until the point of when you're applying to the program if you're not yet graduated. And then when you do graduate, you will want to submit an official final copy that shows proof of graduation. To follow up, even though that question hasn't come up, with respect to licensure, if you have not yet sat for your licensure exam, RF-PTCAS is designed to be an optional section. So if you've sat for your PT licensure and you have your license, you're able to complete the state and license number that you have and upload a copy of that. However, if you have already scheduled your examination but have not yet sat for it, you will have the ability in the system to indicate when you plan on sitting for the exam. And then if you have not yet scheduled the exam, you just wouldn't enter anything into that. Now the next question is, does the directory have information about where the didactic component of the residency will take place? No, it does not. For the 99% of the programs, or 90+% of the programs, they are all in-house. So they are a single site program. When you're looking at the address, whether it's a clinical site, whether it's a university setting, or a partnership, you will note that the curriculum and the didactic area will take place all in the same area. It could be under the same hospital association where it's a university-based hospital, so you get your curriculum, your didactic and clinical training all right there, or they could be associated with some surrounding clinics or some surrounding universities. For those that are a multi-site, it's up to the program how they handle it. So sometimes you're tuning into, say, webinars like this, or some other kind of online training, or there are times where you actually have to fly and attend courses somewhere else. So if you notice that they're a multi-site, you will want to go to the program's website directly, which is linked off of the APTA or abptrp.org's website to determine that. The next question is, does information inputted to the RF-PTCAS stay saved for the entire cycle, September 16th to August 29th, or for a certain time frame? Rob, I'm going to actually turn that question over to you.
Great. The information will remain in the cycle, in the RF-PTCAS for a current cycle. So as the information stands and the dates that Kendra outlined, it will, from day one when you create your application until the cycle closes. That maintenance period is when we're removing the applications that are no longer applicable. And then in the new cycle, you would have to create a new application with the new updated information. The reason behind that is a lot of residencies and fellowships warrant up-to-date references, up-to-date essays, and a lot can change in a year, meaning that your experiences could change. You could have additional CEUs, a lot of different things can happen within the period from one cycle to the next. So we do wipe the information that lives within the RF-PTCAS, and the application from year to year does not carry over. So you would create a new one.
And Rob, would you just take a moment to explain whether an applicant would have an ability, say they were applying to a deadline in October to a program, but then later wanted to apply to a different program with, say, an April or even the August deadline, would they be able to go into their that cycle's application and update their information if they took extra courses or received certifications or scheduled their licensure exam?
That's a great question. So a lot of the information within the application will be locked. However, if you need to update your information within, say you have your fall grades or new transcripts, you're able to have those transcripts sent in and then update your application. You are able to add additional designations, programs, residencies, and fellowships as you see fit. So from the start of the application to the end of the application, if the deadline is still open for that individual program, you are able to submit your application to that residency or fellowship. And again, updating your information if you have additional grades or fall grades or something that wasn't on, maybe you submitted in September or October, and come February, March, you got your grades and you want to have those, send those in, we'll upload them, and then you can have your application submitted to a new program.
Thank you, Rob. The next question that came in, is there a way to find out where the multi-site have clinics for completion of the clinical work? On the RF-PTCAS program directory, for those programs that are participating, and a good majority of the programs are, the program directory simply indicates whether the program is a multi-site or not. If it is a multi-site, though, we do direct you to the program's website, because those sites could change from year to year and sometimes mid-year. So it's just not information that APTA can maintain actively on their website. So we would refer you to go to the program's website for a location of those areas. The next question is with respect to timing of application. This individual is graduating from their DPT program in May of 2015, and they would like to know if they should be applying in the cycle coming up this September 16th, if they're applying to a residency that begins in June or July of 2015. So on the program directories under RF-PTCAS, you will see 3 items. So if you're looking to start a program that starts after your graduation and obviously after you've obtained your licensure, what you will want to look at is for programs with start dates that are after when you anticipate to graduate and anticipate to be licensed. Or some programs do allow for you to start with temporary licensure. It is up to the program. So you should be looking at the program start dates to make sure the timing of that occurs after you've graduated. And with that, then, you will also see the program's application deadline. So the answer to your question is yes. If there is a program that you're looking to go to that is their program start date is in June or July of 2015, and they have a 24th an application deadline that falls between the September 16th of this year through August 29th of next year, you would want to apply during this cycle. The next question is, if you are selected for an interview, will you be notified through RF-PTCAS or will the site contact you directly? All interviews are handled through the program. They will make contact with you to state that they've received your application, they've reviewed it, and they wish to interview you. On the RF-PTCAS directory, we do have, if the program's provided us, we do have an indication of when those interviews will be conducted. Some of them are during a specific week or a specific day, or they, choose a month or 2-month span, and others are on a rolling basis. But again, as far as being contacted for an interview, that will come from the program directly. The next question is there a list of recognized certifications? I am guessing that this question is related to within the RF-PTCAS application, is there a drop-down menu for the various certifications? If I recall correctly, it's been a while since I've looked at the RF-PTCAS application, for the ABPTS certifications like your OCS, your SCS, your WCS, there is a list and a drop-down of those to choose from. However, because certifications vary from PT to PT outside of APTA, certifications that are offered outside of APTA, they vary so greatly. We didn't design the system to have a drop-down and be all-inclusive. So you will have the ability to type in what type of certification you have and to upload a copy of that certification, either the certificate or the card, into RF-PTCAS. I'm going to give it another moment to see if any additional questions come in. While we give it another moment, I just want to let everybody know that should you have any questions that you think of later on or next week or next year, you are more than welcome to contact both APTA as well as Liaison. You can contact APTA by emailing us at resfel@apta.org. Our phone number is also 703-706-3152. And Rob, I'll let you give the contact information for Liaison. I know you had already done so, but...
Absolutely. So the RFPTCAS info at rfptcas.org will be the way to email if you have any questions specifically to RFPTCAS. And my direct number is 617-612-2067. Again, it's 617-612-2067.
Wonderful. So I don't see any further questions. So with that, I wanted to once again thank everybody for joining us this evening on the webinar. This webinar will be posted to the ABPTRFE website under the RF-PTCAS tab and then under the applicant portion of that web page. And again, thank you very much. Have a great evening and good luck in your applications.